Hi Book Cheer, my name is Maria and welcome to my channel MH Books, and welcome to the first of, or the second, depending on how you count it, the second video about the Dublin Literary Award 2022, but the first one where I'm going to do this little competition where books that I have read from its long list, I'm going to I'm going to talk about them in order of reading, and then we're going to see which one I think is the best out of those three. So should therefore be nominated to the shortlist. The Dublin Literary Award 2022 is one of my favourites because it is selected by libraries. Not publishers, it's just libraries put them forward to Dublin City Library, which is the library I'm a member of, and they nominate them and they give reasons why. So I'm going to talk about three books I've already read, say which library nominated them and gave me more than one. That's okay. Sometimes I've seen 4 or 5, sometimes some years. And then do I agree with what the library says? And then out of the 3 books I've already read, which one do I think is the best and therefore should be nominated from Maria's reading to the shortlist that will be announced in March 2022. So obviously I am not going to read anywhere near the books. The books that do tend to make the shortlist because these books were published in this award from June 2020 to, it's July 2020 to June 2021, and then and in either English or translated into English, and they were then nominated by libraries to my library for this prize money, which is 100,000 euros. If you are a translated work, the author gets 75 and the translator gets 25. So it's quite a substantial prize fund, well over $100,000, just under £100,000. So yeah, if you were a smaller author, you probably would like this money. Unfortunately, you're competing against a lot of people because a lot of books are read. But without any more ado, because this is 2.5 minutes of an explanation, I am going to go into 3 books that I have read in the past that happen to be on this list. So we start off with the first one. It's the oldest one, so give me, it's been a while. I read it when it first came out. So the first one that I have read that's on the list is Utopia Avenue by David Mitchell. And what I'm going to do is going to tell you which libraries nominated them and why. So I have it printed out from the website. All of this will be linked down below so you can check the website out yourself if you see some books. It's lovely to go through and see books that you were interested in a year or so ago and forgot about now because there's so many more books coming up in 2022 that it's useful for that, this award. Okay, so they're the first libraries. This one has been nominated by 2 libraries. The first one is Tampere City Library in Finland. So all around the world, these books are nominated. So the reason they give is, what at the outset seems like just another tale of failed rock and roll dreams quickly turns into a captivating web of intrigue as Mitchell spins his story together with strands familiar from his previous work. It is also uncanny how seamlessly he manages to fit his fictional group into the late 60s pop scene, making it strangely feel as if the rock history of the era should somehow be incomplete without the inclusion of Utopia Avenue. Utterly remarkable in all respects. So that's Tampere City Library in Finland. The other one is a UK library, so it's Liverpool City Libraries in the United Kingdom. And the novel chronicles the rise of a delightfully improbable genre-defying British rock band in the late 1960s, and this struck a chord with our borrowers. Brought up the Beatles and the vibrant local music scene. It is brilliantly written novel and compelling characters and a band whose music you wish was real. So do I agree with this? So bear in mind, I read this when it first came out, so it's probably 18 months ago now. I am a fan of David Mitchell's writing. This book is, as the librarians say, about a fictional band in the 1960s. And one of the characters is Jasper de Zoet. So if you've read David Mitchell before, you know that Jasper de Zoet is probably related to Jacob. And David Mitchell writes a mixture of genres, but that include magical realism, and he loves to introduce characters from his previous books into all the rest of the books. So it is actually something I have in mind to actually read David Mitchell from his first publication in order, so I can actually see all the different connections. And I think I still wouldn't see them all because he writes quite a big chunksters. The band is put together because of the talent, and that they have a talented manager. They're put together. They're a particularly good band, and they meet a lot of famous rock and roll stars from the 1960s and singer-songwriters during the course of the novel. David Mitchell is obviously a big fan of music in this era. A big fan of the music of this era, and he talks about the writing of the songs and how the songs are written. Some people complain that some of the incidents in the book seem to occur only so that they can write about these instances in their songs, but this is how songs are written. It is very like Daisy Jones and the Six in that sense. If you read Daisy Jones and the Six, or if you haven't read Daisy Jones and the Six but you read this, Daisy Jones and the Six is very like this, in that it talks an awful about how the songs are written and the chords that are going to be played, and why they're being played. It's full of David Mitchellisms. It likes to digress. It likes to walk through scenes and just listen to people's conversations at these parties, which are not relevant to a story narrative. It is just for the atmosphere and the pure enjoyment of being in these scenes. So if you don't like superfluous writing, then you're probably not for you. I am a fan of his style. There's no things. And I'm a fan of somebody who writes about something that they absolutely adore. And he obviously loves this. It includes his normal magical realism. It is not written like things like Cloud Atlas, which are sort of interconnected short stories. This is a full out novel and it has the same thing that I got from Daisy Jones and Six. You actually are sorry. I agree with the librarian's comments. You are sorry the band does not exist in this. So the next book that I read the next book is The Other Black Girl by Zakiya Dalila Harris. And from the printouts from the website. This one was nominated by 2 libraries as well. It was nominated by Ferguson Library in the US and Multnomah County Library in the US as well. That's its spelling. I am very sorry to all the Americans who probably tell me how to pronounce that county name. So the reasons the libraries picked it were it was truly a book for our times, exposing the microaggressions and bias that occur in mundane, everyday occurrences that take place in the world of publishing. This crosses over multiple genres and keeps readers spellbound with every turn of the page. The women at the heart of the story are women everywhere, both visible and invisible at the same time. So that was the Ferguson Library in the US. And then wicked satire and insider's view of the publishing industry and casual workplace racism combined to make a twisty and thought-provoking comedy of manners. Ooh, by Multnomah County Library, US. I haven't read these comments first, just so I have a genuine reaction to them. Okay, I read this book last summer, because I was on holidays while I reread it, so I can remember when I read it for once. The Other Black Girl. I first heard about it actually in books upstairs. I seen it. I picked it up because it looked. I hadn't even picked it up. We were in lockdown at the time. We were in lockdown for most of 2021. And I'd seen it. They had it on their front, books upstairs on the front of their website, and I had the Click and Collect was available then. So we were allowed to go into the shop with masks to pick up our orders, and I picked it up then. So I think that's when, so it was just when shops were starting to open in the summer last year. So they had recommended it. Then I heard the author in the Graham Norton book club. Now, Zakiya, I think if you've heard an interview with somebody, you'd remember how to pronounce her name. We're speaking to Graham, and she was talking about how she was in the publishing industry when she wrote this book, which is funny. And she got the publishers that she was working for to publish the book. And it's not always very complimentary about how Black women are treated in the publishing industry offices and the workspaces. And so she was working there, and she smelled a hair product, which actually happens in the book, of somebody who was obviously using it. It's a hair product used for keeping natural African hair, and so there must be another Black woman in the office somewhere. She was very excited as being the only Black woman. This is real life as well as in the story, in this office. And then she had, but what if the other Black girl, as she's called in the title of the book, wasn't as helpful as she thought, and actually made life more difficult for her. So it's about a lot of different things. The comment that it's multi-genre is definitely true. There's literary here, there's a thriller here, and there's a third genre here, which I can't mention because it's the twist. Okay, so I can't tell you what the genre is. Don't look at my Goodreads classification, just in case I classify it under that genre. I can do that sometimes. So don't look there unless you really want to spoil yourself, which is fine if you want to. So it's about the other Black girl starting in the office, and how the microaggressions that occur in the office of these supposedly white, liberal, well-educated people, and how they think they're open-minded and they're not open-minded, and how they have discussions on inclusion, what is inclusion, rather than including everybody, and having a mix of races and nationalities, as their authors, as their staff. They spend hours and hours debating what it is and not actually ever doing anything, and deciding that they were obviously not racist and all the rest of it. So there's an awful lot, and there's some really good the subtleties of these conversations and what occurs, and how it's impossible. So what do? Do you say, I'm sorry, but you sound polite, but you're being racist? Do you point out that someone in the book is a characterization of, if you're a reader, as this girl is, or woman is, I don't like the word girl, but this woman is, of a book, and you're asked your opinion, as a Black woman, do you not say, there's a terrible portrayal of a Black woman in this book, it's a caricature? I don't agree with it. I think it reads as a caricature. It's not a full in depth person. So there's a load of things. So the real issues that go through. So this book is very strong on that, because it's an author writing about what she knows. So you can see it was very brave of the publishers to publish the book. There is a thriller aspect. She's getting, the new Black girl starts, and she's getting notes on her desks telling her to leave now, and these kind of threats. And this other Black girl is coming in, and she's not complaining, and she's getting further up the chain. And it leads to that debate. How do you deal? Do you join the white women's club because they're mostly white women, or do you say, no, what you're doing is wrong, we need more diversity? Do you challenge the system? Which is the best way to deal with any type of prejudice? It occurs for a woman working in a male workspace as well. Do you join the men, or do you tell them, can we just employ more genders that are not male. You know, how do you deal? So it's full of all of that. It's full of the genre of the thriller genre that she's trying to turn out. And then there's this third genre. And the third genre is interesting. It is an explanation, maybe. And it is a way of working through using a genre on which is the best way of dealing with these microaggressions and this prejudice in this workplace. And it's using the genre to hit it face on. It is not necessarily going to give you the ending that you want, but I would approve the ending is within that genre very realistic. My criticism of the book is when you go to another genre, these things have rules. Okay, the genre is not horror, but there's a horror shelves behind me, so it's reminding me there are rules to horror. And there's rules to this genre, and it's not quite fitting them, so it's really difficult to talk about. So this book is really recommended for book clubs and book buddy reads, so you can just know what I'm talking about and speak about it with somebody as it happens, because yeah, you really need to do that. Okay, next book. Okay, so the third and final book is Emma Stonex, The Lampwriters, which I read recently for a real life book group. Actually meets in real life. Very few of them do anymore. And I couldn't go because they meet in real life and it was a close contact. So I think we're supposed to be talking to people about this about 3 or 4 weeks ago now. And I never quite got to do it. So the Lamplighters is nominated by one library, by the Norfolk Library and Information Service in the United Kingdom. And they say this is an engaging novel that defies categorization. Part a locked room mystery, part a study in isolation, and told in such an unusual way that it's mesmerizing. The characters' voices from the Lamplighters themselves to their grieving relatives shine through. Highly recommended. Okay. So this book is, yeah, they're right. It is a locked room mystery. It is a study of isolation. It is based on real life events in 1972, and then a fictional story is written completely fictional, but it's based very loosely on these events, where 3 lighthouse keepers in a lighthouse that's in the middle of the sea, and they call it tower. So the only way to access one of these locations is by boat. That's the idea. And then you have to string yourself over on the string from a boat to get to the door. Okay. So not a thing to cross and do. And so you're obviously isolated there in a very narrow building with no, you can't even go outside and go for a walk as if you're on an island or something. So you're isolated on this tower for a couple of months at a time, which is what happened in 1972. And one day, in the real story and in this story, they find out that the 3 men who are on that tower, are on duty in that tower, one of them is due, to go off his shift after 2 months on the tower. They're all gone missing, and that mystery has never been solved. So Emma Stonex has written a locked room mystery based on that principle, and what she's done is she tells it in multiple perspectives, the 3 men. So we're going back in time to before they go disappearing, and we find out how they feel about being on the tower. So it is a study in isolation in that sense, and whether they like where this lifestyle suits them, and it suits 2 of them and not one of them, and their wives or girlfriends who are on the shore, so are being interviewed in the current time. I think it's about 10 years on, by somebody who is trying to investigate yet again what happened to these men. They went missing in the tower because nobody knows. So they're being interviewed, and they're telling their story in the future, and we're hearing the past story of the guys. So it's all obviously concluding to how the men disappear. It is full of, because we have our multiple timelines, multiple perspectives, it is full of the normal plot twists that you would expect. As I said, this is actually another one that's good for book club, because some events occur in this book again, which are genre events. And why do they occur? It occurs in the tower, so it's that there's an intricate mystery that not quite everything is ever explained. There is an element to this book that's never quite explained, though you are told in the end what happened to the guys on the tower. So there is some conclusion, but not everything has been tied up. And the people on the shore are hiding what they think happened. So these are the wives and the girlfriend are hiding in the future, still hiding what they believed happened. Which is obviously their big secret, but it's not obviously necessarily actually what really did happen in the tower. It's just what they feel guilty about. So we have all of that. It is intriguing, all the different weaves in the story. I would recommend it for book clubs. It is suspenseful. I think the ending was kind of this, obviously the ending of the future bit and the ending of the past bit, the 1972 bit and the current bit where, you know, there are the guys of missing and being interviewed. Both are kind of vaguely obvious, because, which is a good sign of a mystery too, because it's been hinted at all the way through. I mean, the possibilities have all been hinted at. There are red herrings, but they've all been hinted at. I always think it's a bit of a cheat if a mystery novel ends and you kind of go, but there's no indication of that anyway through the whole book. But this one has, its ending is, for both endings are hinted at. So it fulfills that criteria, and I would recommend it for book clubs. Kings of the three books. I'm going to put this one in third place, only because its thrill element is good. It had me page turning. I do remember last summer turning these pages and reading this book quick. Thrill element's good. Literary elements and the perspective of the of Black women in the publishing industry are absolutely 100% spot on. Author knows her shit on this one. Not entirely convinced. That's all. Just convinced by the other part of the other genre. And this has been terribly tough on this book, by the way. Okay, I'm being really harsh I feel mean criticizing these books. These books are nominated by 2 libraries on this book list for a reason. It's good. It's just have to rank the books. So you have to forgive me. I have to find something. Okay, this one is getting the second thing and then the second rating, so it's second place, only because something happened on that tower in 1972 and I never got to speak to somebody about it, so I haven't got it straight in my mind why this happened or not. And it, you know, it is intriguing and it is very, it does seem harsh to rank. This book is what's sitting on my shelf in the original video. It is obviously a book I'm keeping, so for a reason. So it is a book I'll be rereading as well. So it is being terribly harsh. The reason Utopia Avenue is getting number 1 and through to Maria's shortlist for 2022 is because the love of David Mitchell's the songwriting and the music production of this era has shone through to me. Even a year and a half after I've read it, I still remember it, and it makes me want to pick up that guitar in the background. Well, actually, my electric guitar is in my sister's house at the moment, and read it. Sorry, and write some music myself. Just that. So David Jones and Six did exactly the same for me. It's me. So the reason I'm picking this is it appeals to Maria, and it's Maria's shortlist, and she gets to sign the books. Okay, until next time, which one of these books would you have picked, or have you read them? Is there one of them you think is complete shite? And you know, I'm completely, because I love them all really, completely disturbed about, like, you know, why the hell would I like this? It's obviously bad for a reason. Tell us about that. Is there any other books on the long list that I really should read? Because there's probably time, there might be time, by the time this video goes up, for you to give me suggestions. So yeah, until next time, bye now.